Good evening, and welcome to our annual INLAC's Fine Arts Awards presentation. First, I have to announce a few changes in the order of events in this evening's program. My opening remarks will be followed by the keynote speech delivered by Anupam Saw, the head of Art Conservation, Research and Training at the CSMVS Museum Art Conservation Center. Recently knighted by the Italian government for his outstanding work in the field of restoration techniques, Anupam will present an overview of the conservation work he has been conducting recently in India. I would like to say a little more about Mr. Saw, though his profile appears in the booklet you've been given. For years, he has headed the museum's conservation center out of the glare of the limelight. But exceptional talent cannot remain anonymous for too long, and in recent years, he has been getting the kind of recognition he deserves. His achievements are manifold, and just one manifestation was the recent outstanding exhibition, Conserving the Collection, the caring path for 5,000 years of our art, which he conceived and executed. Gallerist Mortimer Chatterjee will then introduce the practice of each of the 2017 INLAC's Fine Arts Award winners. He is one of the judges who, together with curator Luca Chiridza, artist Shilpa Gupta, and art editor Abhay Sardesai, constituted the jury who selected the awardees. I cannot thank these jury members enough for the patient and careful execution of their task. This will be followed by a one-on-one discussion between Anupam and each artist on issues of conservation in relation to their practice. Once again, I regret that our chairman, Mr. Azad Shivdasani, is not able to be with us this evening due to unavoidable circumstances. However, I am delighted to tell you that we do have our chairman emeritus, Mrs. Lakshmi Shivdasani, with us this evening. She will present the awards to the winners. I'm also pleased that we have Professor Veer Chauhan, our trustee, with us this evening, and he will make the closing remarks. I'm even more delighted that we have the artist Manisha Parekh with us this evening. Manisha, an INLAC's alumna, is one of the stalwarts responsible for the Fine Arts Award and has given tirelessly of her time and energy into making this award a success. INLAC's is known primarily as a scholarship awarding institution. This is still its major role in the recognized academic subjects, though it is also known as one of the foremost institutions to provide scholarships in the field of art and sculpture. In fact, since 1982, when Rekha Radwitya received the first art award, more than 140 artists have benefited by way of a grant, scholarship, or an award. The Foundation's other programs in support of the arts are not so well known. For instance, there is our residency program, whereby Indian artists are sent to international institutions to work for varying periods of time. Among such places are Gasworks and the Delphina Foundation in London, the Darling Foundry in Montreal, and similar bodies in New York, Amsterdam, Skowhegan in the state of Maine, and the Pistoletto Foundation in Italy. The residency program is conducted in India as well, in such institutions as Khoj in Delhi, Bar 1 and 1 Shanti Road in Bangalore, What About Art, Kona and Space 118 in Mumbai, and Sandarbh in Rajasthan. I recently returned from Delhi, where I attended a seminar marking the end of our 3-year curatorial program with GNU's School of Art and Aesthetics. The high standard of excellence attained by the conference attested to its worth. There are numerous other INLAC's art projects, such as the support for curatorial studies at leading universities overseas, international training programs, and the granting of museum fellowships. May I now call upon Anupam Saw to deliver the keynote address.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here this evening and for the kind words. Thank you for remembering conserving the collection. Thank you. The idea is that today we speak to the artists who have created these works, and I I think you'll need to just connect this here. So the idea is that we speak about how these artworks are created. We often take artworks for granted. So I thought it'll be nice if we can take a little walk through the processes that help in the artworks from coming alive, synthesized from the basic materials. From the earliest of times, people have created works for daily use or for appreciation. These are quotidian objects, and these are objects of everyday, we call them objects of everyday art, but these are objects of everyday use. And these objects were imbued with wonderful techniques and skills, and of course, what we call aesthetics at the moment. But I think what is very important is to understand that most of these objects that we see that have stood the test of time have one thing in common, and it is that all these objects were created by people who knew their materials, who knew the technologies which created these works. This is a Harappan jar, a huge Harappan jar this size. And as they put this in the kiln, they had the cord around it so it wouldn't collapse. And those marks that we see there are the marks of the cord as it then burnt away, and clay turned to terracotta. This is a toy cart, and it was in the creation of the works. Of course, this is we are talking about 3,500 years ago. But if you see the artists, one other thing that has always been with the artists when they created works were the stories. If you have, the first thing that comes to mind is you have the Mrichakatika, that Sanskrit play, and then it was then remembered by many people because of the movie Utsav with Shekhar Suman and Rekha. So these things come to mind when you're looking at works of art that may precede these events by thousands of years. This is stucco. Stucco is basically lime with a bit of gravel and some organic matter, which is then mixed together as clay and then dried. And stucco has been used to decorate buildings. It has been used to create sculptures. This is a Gandharan seated Buddha, crowned Buddha as they call it. And the one on the right, on your right side as you see it, is a bust. And the stucco, it's been sitting in the museum here. The museum was established in 1912, and this has been in the storeroom for so many years, lying forgotten, literally seated in meditation, in that quietness of things. And it has remained absolutely perfect because of that. We often complain that sometimes our museums lock up things, but I think it's fortunate they have been locked up for some time. Also, it's fortunate also, right? And then now they are coming to light, all in good time, as they say. Metals, Madhuchishta Vidhan, the lost wax process, known in so many ways in different cultures. What is interesting in terms of these technologies which have created art objects is that across civilizations and across continents, the same techniques which have created works that have lasted for centuries, these techniques are common. And they have evolved over hundreds and hundreds of years. And this is one such technique which has found acceptance by most of the cultures of the world. Where you create the object with the wax and then you put the fine clay on it. Eventually it melts and the metal alloys are then poured in, which causes this is in Swami Malai. And then of course the wall paintings. The separation of light from darkness, the one on the right, Michelangelo Buonarroti's fresco, made on fresh lime plaster. So while the plaster is wet, you apply paints without any medium or glues or gums, and then the lime water in the plaster covers the pigments like a glass film and forms a glass film over it. And these frescoes stand for as long as the walls do. The one on the left is the iconic Padmpani from Ajanta, 3rd century, 4th century. It spanned about 200-300 years of creation. These are still known as frescoes in India. The fact they are not frescoes by any stretch of imagination. They are tempera paintings. Another thing that happens with, it's not just the creation of the artworks, another thing that happens is the perpetuation of terms and terminologies which have not been well understood by people, and they pass on from classroom to classroom, from generation to generation. Neither do we question the teacher sometimes, and neither do the teacher sometimes review what we are passing on. And it spans these generations. And a lot of these things happen also because we're using terminologies which we have not made too much of an effort to understand. In the Indian context, when you see traditional terminologies in the various villages across India, in the hinterland, these are the people who create the artworks. But they never share the days with us. Because we go and we understand the way they've created these things and we come here and present it. Whereas the deeper knowledge remains with them. But it's almost an alienation of the traditional artisans from the intellectual aspects of their work. While it is brilliant to understand terminologies of various cultures, it is strange that it has been at the expense of your local traditions. So I think there has to be this resurgence of the language which the artist uses to bring them back into, to bring that vocabulary back into the conversation. I'm just giving a range of the materials and technologies with which people work. It's textile. This is a 17th century tanka, embroidered tanka. Those are close-ups of the various weaves that they have used there, the various knots that they have created, the silver metal that they have strung around the cotton threads, and then woven it together to give this impression from a distance of Tara. Marble. So whether you create it in stone, I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. How was this stone in the earth in the first place? And it is always in beds. And it is important that the stone comes out as it has come out from the bed and placed, and then you sculpt it and you create it. It is important to understand that, otherwise this thing would have fallen apart by now. And this is something which is actually missing in our arts education today, in our colleges across the country. In any art college, we've been talking about having the freedom to create without even bothering about the materials. Yes? But the fact is, we don't know our materials. When you have these, there are lots of literature readings on these days. All these people who are authors, it's not that they've become creative just like that. I've been told, go get creative. They have been through the rigor of forming the alphabets first at a young age. And then the full stops, and then the commas, and then the sentences. And so many steps. Eventually, once the armature is ready, then they are ready to take on the imagination of other people with their writings. But there has to be discipline and rigor at the beginning. We can't hide behind the very easy thing of, no. The art students just have to be creative and that's it. I think there has to be some rigor and discipline in it first. and that those textile works and the terracotta works, all of them exemplify that sincerity and the responsibility of the artist to know his or her materials. That may come with time also. There's nothing wrong if one has missed out at some time. But there has to be the conscious aspect that at some point of time, I will make an effort to understand my materials. Pieta again in a different form as a polychrome wood from Goa. This time it's with the pigments. And how the pigments come about. How is it that the mineral cinnabar is taken from the earth and crushed and then mixed with the conch shell white and made into a pink? Or how is it that arsenic sulfide is taken from the earth, again as a mineral, and then mixed with, let's say, a plant gum binder and applied? Because you also ought to know, for example, if the two colors I mentioned would have been applied on frescoes, they would have just darkened within 10-15 years. They would have become black and brown. So it may come with, it's really not trial and error. These are practices that have been around for centuries, and that is what allowed artisans of yore to create works that stand absolutely fresh today. And art has been created everywhere, from the most fallen off places. This is in Ladakh. On the northwestern side of the Himalayas, on the west of Nepal. This is on the east, on the Indo-China-Bhutan border. At Tawang, you cross Sela Pass at 14,000 feet and you reach here. That's what the landscape is about. It's about these little prayer wheels which are in the pani ki chakki that helps to turn it around. And then these are banners with prayers written on them, so that when the breeze blows, the prayers for the well-being of the world, the prayers are spread across the landscape. And it is here that Mera Lama established this in 860 AD or something, the Tawang Gompa. This is the Tawang Gompa there. One of the largest monasteries of Asia. And they're creating for their prayers butter sculptures. Sculptures made of butter from the zo, which is a cross between the yak and the local cow. These sculptures, Chezokargyen is what the process is called. And these are then offered to the deity so that the rituals can be completed. It's interesting how they select people for this. They call all the children in the monastery and they ask them to hold butter. There are some people who are intrinsically, or rather who are physically cold when you shake hands with them. There are some people with cold hands. So these are the children selected, the rest are sent back for other things. It's this group of people who are then taught how to create these sculptures. And wo khane ke baad, after eating dinner, they serve you this bowl with lemon, no? So all of them, when they do this, they have a bowl with a lemon in it, so that they can keep dipping the hands in it, because the lemon cuts out the grease from the hands. And then they keep making these sculptures and they keep dipping the hands in this. And then paper. Paper, a very, very basic material, a very, very raw material, a material that has helped us move forward with time and express our thoughts and understand other people's thoughts. And these are the monks there learning how to take care of their manuscripts. But taking care of anything needs an understanding of how these things are created. A doctor can only take care of you if he understands your anatomy. Only then can one understand how is it that there's a problem with the knee because the synovial fluid inside is getting dried up and things are then rubbing against each other. One needs to understand the structure of things. And because they've understood them, these manuscripts of theirs have been there since so long. And these were things that were brought in from Tibet. And can you imagine all these manuscripts that you see? These are made with wood blocks. So every folio, and one folio has two sides. So there are two wood blocks this thick and this big. And one manuscript has about, let's say, 1,000 of these pages. So you have 2,000 of these wood blocks that were carried from Tibet at the time when they had to take refuge into India across the Himalayas, and they carried all these on kachars and brought them across, and so many died on the way. This was their art, and this was their culture, and this was what moved them. And people do these things to preserve their culture. When it comes to when there's a crunch, when your back is against the wall, that's the time when these seemingly unfeasible sort of efforts come into manifest as human endeavor. And it echoes the mighty potency of human endeavor. So talking about paper, we'll just take you quickly, because paper is also reflected in many of the artworks here. I'll take you to a village. I'll just show you exactly how this Nepalese paper, all these papers are made. So I'm giving you a technology process only of the only material that we are discussing. So this is it. Rinchen Funsok. This is a shrub called the Shugu shrub, a Daphne genus. You take the bast fiber, which is soft fiber, take it, cut it into pieces, boil it in water, and you take this material and you put it on a stone slab once it's wet, pulpy, and you make it into pulp with these wooden mallets. Then you take a vat, there's the water coming from the hillside, it's fresh water, and you put a bit of this pulp into this like a sieve, like it's a cane container. Agitate it, so the bigger, the rougher pieces stay inside, the softer particles get dispersed here, and you very skillfully take it out and allow the fibers to spread over the screen, the sieve. And all plants have gums, so that is the gum which binds the fibers eventually. Take it out, keep it aside, then he takes them, puts them in the sun, dries them, and in the evening keeps them in the kitchen, folds them and gives them to the monastery for them to make their woodblock prints. And in between they put ash into the water. And this ash gives this alkalinity to it. So these manuscripts are standing there for 340 years because there was ash inside the water, and that rendered it alkaline. So it could absorb all the shocks of acidity and pollution and everything else, no matter where these manuscripts are. So these are things, it's important to know these things to be able to produce. I think artists also have a sense of responsibility if art is becoming something which is also a transaction. It is not just a gift. Well, we even check the chips packet to see that the nitrogen is still there. When you buy a car, you test it rigorously, you see its materials, you see everything. I don't think for art maybe that information is not out there either. But when things are being transacted for sums of money, I think it's a responsibility of the people who are creating the artworks, as well as the sellers, and due diligence also by the buyers to see that it will last for some time, if it is a thing of beauty. There's a shot of the wood blocks. And then this paper is then created into manuscripts. And eventually the whole process of how to temper the pigments and put them on a support of paper. This is 15th century, 16th century, Emperor Akbar's translation of the Panchatantra into Persian, the Anwar-e Suhaili. Exquisite illustrations, absolutely fresh, out there on display, recently been conserved. And this is how pigments were made. Traditionally, it's the ladies who made the pigments, who did the grinding. The men painted. across cultures. And then to understand how these things are made, sometimes we may have to take the help of technology. So whether it's ultraviolet light that helps you differentiate between pigments, or X-rays of paintings, or to see put transmitted light to see how is it that the artist created these works. All this also helps in fingerprinting. When you try to fake an object, there are certain things which you cannot, the internal structure of things, and X-rays, things like this are used for what is called fingerprinting of art objects. Infrared light allows you to see through a painting onto the surface. For example, up there, you can see the other drawings under the painting. So this is the way technology has also been brought into play in taking care of artifacts. Just to close, a few shots of eventually when objects do degrade, how is it that they're taken care of in places which have been furbished for them. And this is the conservation center here, one of the views of it. And these are the tricky things, this removal of surface coats and things. These are questions of aesthetics, a question of taste, it's a question of the social norm, it's a question of your peers, it's a question of the client. So there are lots of issues that come into play. And the only way to address them is to have conversations. Bronzes, the patina, remove, not to remove, what to retain, what not to retain. The bringing in of, this is a laser. We've got a laser unit here. Most of the things are being cleaned with lasers here these days. Those that can be cleaned with it. So you just have light, it just cleans up your object. And it's an ND-AG laser, which is also used for eye surgery. Of course, it's modified. And all these objects are treated here. This is a Japanese okimono treated with lasers again to remove. So you don't need to touch it with your hands. And then the question of what to recreate, what not to recreate, how to give just neutral tones to allow the visual experience to be smooth and that it is not disturbed. So it's just a quick overview basically about the importance. I personally feel it's very important that you understand materials, that artists and art students especially at a young age try to start understanding how is it that these materials, what is the nature of these materials, how will they behave when you create these artworks. And we will take that up in the conversation after this talk. This is just an introductory thoughts on this, what's going to follow afterwards. Thank you very much, Mamita, for allowing me to do this.
Anupam, thank you so much. I'm Mortimer Chatterjee. Anupam, I think that was a wonderful introduction to your craft, to your industry, and I'm sure the audience has questions, but I think in order to, because we have a full program, if we'll proceed into the next part of the evening, can I invite you to sit on the stage? And we're just setting up. So just some introductory remarks from me. The INLAX Awards really are an initiation rite of sorts for artists at the cusp of moving into a career in the industry. And for those selected, it's sort of a moment when they're folded into the art ecosystem at some level. So we look forward to this moment on a yearly basis. And I speak for all of the judges when I can say that we're thrilled to be part of not only tonight, but also the lead up in terms of the selection process. This year, we had, may I say on behalf of the judges, one of the best groups of applications. We had around 140 artists, young artists apply up to the age of 30. We shortlist and bring down 15 of those people to Bombay, and we have a chat which then leads to the final selection of 5 awardees, those who you'll meet this evening. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to invite each of our awardees up onto stage one by one, have a look at their works, and then have Anupam speak to them. So can I invite, I've decided to order it by age, which I know is not a particularly nice thing to do. The reason I've done that is because it also is kind of the time between graduating and where they are, where you find them in their practice today. So I'm going to invite Mamita Das to first come up on stage. Can I invite you to come? This is Mamita. Mamita, are we moving slides? Let's see if that... can we unfreeze? Mamita undertook her BFA and MFA from Kala Bhavan in Shantiniketan. And are we a bit frozen? And specializing in textile design. While we're waiting for the screen to get going, this is Mamita's work to her right, the first textile work here. And I think as a team, the judges were incredibly impressed by the way that she has handled her medium. It's a medium that we don't often see presented to us at the application stage. And I think that all of us felt that there was something quite special in terms of using, obviously, what is known as, in terms of a crafts-based practice in a most sophisticated manner that talked to developments in, obviously, in abstract art and abstraction over the decades. And once we were able to have Mamita speak to us in Bombay, it was clear that she was someone who was thinking deeply about her materials. And in that light, are we having a problem still, or should we?
I think it'll come up by the time.
Yeah. So I'm very happy maybe for Anupam to maybe start having a little discussion with Mamita about her practice.
I'll go there. You stay here. I'll just go beside your work. What is the work? You've titled it something? Is there a name for it?
No, not really.
Yeah?
No.
Okay. Can you tell us how you made this work? Where did you do it, first of all? Where did you create this work?
Well, my studio is in Delhi. It's in Chhatarpur. So, yeah, I have done in my studio.
And what does your studio look like? What is the space like?
Not this much of big, but, well, it's a small square.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, would you like to share with us how you made it? Isko kaise banaya?
Well, basically, पहले एक wooden frame without canvas, the canvas frame, and then I wrap it with thread. It's called warp, and then I knot it over down there, so that the web threads are not down, and then I weave it.
So you
with
weave
different,
this.
yeah.
Okay. और इसमें क्या-क्या material use किया है? What is used here?
Cotton thread. There are also jute thread.
So this is cotton.
Yeah, this is cotton.
And this is jute.
This is jute.
What
And
else?
then copper strip.
This is copper. Okay, copper.
Yeah. And then copper wire also over there.
Here.
Yeah.
This is new. What is this? What is this material? This is
This,
different.
that is hemp.
Hemp.
Yeah.
Hemp.
Hemp.
Okay. Hemp से भांग बनाते हैं. Yeah. In the mountains, we eat hemp seeds. We cook it and put it in vegetables, and it adds a lot of warmth. It's not dope or anything like that. So this is hemp.
Yeah.
And why did you choose one hemp, just some hemp? Why hemp?
As I think that it will gives a new look, create a new dimension. That's why.
What is this glitter? I see it on faces usually. What's this here?
The thread with the glitter actually.
Okay. So do you know how this is going to look like in 10 years? or 15 years or 20 years?
No.
Huh?
No.
You know, send it if you gift it to somebody.
Hmm.
If it is in Delhi, it will remain pretty much like this to a great extent. But here in Bombay, it might look different. Because this is all cotton, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And with time here, all these whites will turn to,
Yellowish.
yeah. So are you prepared for it? You must write down in your notes that whoever owns this must understand that that is the character of the object and it will change its color over time. Because half the people who have collections are very much bothered about what's happening to my artworks. I bought them and they looked like this and now they're turning into this. So I think it's up to you also to express to the people who are interested in your works as to what you expect them to be in the future. I mean, if you want to, it's just a thought. And this will turn green.
Okay.
Yeah, this will turn greenish. Right? Because, you know, all that, copper will change color, different things. Especially if you keep this near the kitchen with the vinegar and all, every time salad is made, all those fumes will turn it into a bluish green. Okay?
Okay. But if I cover it with a glass, then?
If you cover it with glass, you'll save it for some time. You're right, you'll save it for some time.
Okay.
Or if you coat this with a certain protective something, then it'll stay.
Oh.
Okay? I didn't mean to scare you. I told you, we're just going to have a general chat.
Anupam,
Yeah.
here's a detail.
This is the detail of that. Excellent.
The portion you were discussing. And here we are in Mamita's studio.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beater.
So you know how to weave carpets?
More
Little
or
bit,
less,
sort of.
Shall we? Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Mamita. I'm going to play devil here, and I'm
Yes,
going
absolutely.
to
There's just
I'm
some
going
thoughts.
to thank you.
Thank you, Mamita.
Thank you so much. So now the rest of them are running out the exit before they get grilled. Can I invite Tubbin Morana to join us on stage? He's the next awardee. Congratulations, Tubbin. BFA and MFA, Rabindra Bharati University, Kolkata, in sculpture. In terms of shows, you've shown in 2016 at Kanoria Center in Ahmedabad, and you were awarded the 2013 Lalit Kala Academy Research Scholarship. And here's the first of your works, Anupam, you can see on my laptop. I think as a group, the judges had been particularly drawn to this idea of using a material that was not the material that the object presented itself to be. So the tree branch and copper wires presented itself as the leaf. The terracotta presented itself as this wooden table. This kind of sleight of hand, we enjoyed this, the bones made of wood carvings. My favorite work is this, I suppose because we deal with so many cardboard boxes and crates within our industry, but this is our crate, but made of yellow sandstone, which I think you were going to... Did you want to talk about this in particular before I move on?
When he mentioned yellow sandstone, I was just wondering... Huh? So ये sandstone किधर का है? जैसलमेर का. अच्छा.
जैसलमेर का है.
जैसलमेर का. तो फिर ये and you worked where? किधर पे काम किया था?
ये एक्चुअली मैं कलेक्ट किया था जो कलकत्ता में मास्टर्स थर्ड सेमेस्टर.
You got this stone all the way to Calcutta?
हाँ स्टोर है
To
उधर
work?
मिल जाता है.
अच्छा वहाँ मिलता है, but it's not that you ordered it from there. तो अभी तुमने इसको क्या टाइटल रखा? Yellow something, no?
Untitled 2013.
The yellow sandstone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we have our gas burner made from painted firewood. Some more images. And then Tubbin's work, which he's brought in today, is the work, the paperwork on my far right, the aeroplane. He tells us that in terms of his process, he uses these photography is very important in terms of mobile photography and taking reference images, but also before the sculptural works are made, he often makes works on paper. So that's the work that, if I can invite you, just maybe to have a...
Shall we talk about that?
So
You want to come there? Come.
So this is the same work for those of you at
This
the back
one.
of the audience. This is the same
This one.
work.
So बताओ कैसे? Just tell us how you made this.
And talk right into the microphone, guys.
Yes, okay.
सो मैं एवरीडे ड्राइंग प्रैक्टिस करता हूँ जैसे हॉबी. मैं हर दिन एक ड्राइंग करता हूँ.
ठीक है.
जैसे कि पहले एकदम ड्राई पेपर के ऊपर रोटरी इंक यूज़ करता हूँ. तो देन इसको टोटल इरेज करने की कोशिश करता हूँ कि पूरा मिटा के फिर से एक ड्राइंग
So
बनाऊँ.
you make a drawing and then you erase it.
हाँ.
How?
अच्छा नहीं लगता है कभी
With a
कभी.
rubber
कभी अच्छा
or with
लगता है.
what? With a rubber? You
नो नो
erase
नो
it?
वाटर.
Water. Okay, so you wash the paper off. Okay. You
Then-
wash the ink off the paper.
हाँ. देन फिर से एक इमेज उसके साथ
ठीक है.
मतलब जोड़ता हूँ. जैसे कि एक फॉर्म रहता है जैसे कि डिस्टेंस से
Right.
एरोप्लेन लगेगा बट नज़दीक जाओ तो कुछ बोन्स है, पिलर्स का
अच्छा,
टुकड़ा है, पुराना कार्स है, ह्यूमन
Right.
फिगर है, यहाँ पर रिंग्स है, क्यूब फॉर्म है ऐसे.
Right. So ये materials कहाँ से लाते हो? Where do you buy these materials from? Where is this paper from?
ये जब दिल्ली शिफ्ट किया तो ये काम बनाया था. एक्चुअली ये बहुत रिसेंट वर्क है. लास्ट 1 महीने का काम है. नवंबर का काम है.
Okay.
सो ये सीताराम बोल के एक स्टोर है तो वहाँ से लिया था.
Okay. Because all the papers with which works are being produced, all the papers are behaving differently. And over time, everything is altering. Something is turning yellow, something, किसी में brown spots आ जा रहे हैं, किसी में कुछ हो रहा है, किसी में कुछ हो रहा है. आप लोगों को कैसा लगता है? Suppose your work turns out with spots. brown हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा. आपको एज एन आर्टिस्ट आप क्या बोलोगे इनको जिसने आपका ऑब्जेक्ट कलेक्ट किया है?
नहीं मुझे दाग से कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है.
आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. तो फ्यूचर में अगर
क्योंकि
किसी के-
ये सब मेरे प्रोसेस है. मैं जब कुछ जगह में कुछ स्ट्रांगली पकड़ लेता हूँ तो फिंगरप्रिंट आ जाता है.
हाँ.
तो फिंगरप्रिंट भी
छोड़
कभी
दो
कभी
यहाँ पर. यहाँ भी बहुत सारे दाग दिख रहे
यहाँ पर
हैं.
फोल्ड हो जाता है. मैं पूरा
ये
कंट्रोल नहीं
तो
कर पाता हूँ.
बट दिस इज व्हेन यू मेड इट. बट सपोज आफ्टर 20 years, है ना, यू विल बी व्हाट 34 दैट टाइम? नो 44.
आई एम 27.
37. ओके. सो जब तुम 47 years के हो जाओगे और इसमें ऐसे ब्राउन वो कुछ ना कागज, इट गेट्स स्पॉइल्ड आफ्टर सम टाइम. So what will you tell me? Suppose this is in my house. Will you tell me to clean it and make it nice again and give me the paper which is white? Or will you let it be? What will you tell me to do? If you see your work, will you be
ये
sad?
सच है. ये सच है. ये धीरे धीरे फेड होगा क्योंकि इसमें कुछ प्रोटेक्शन नहीं है.
अच्छा तो होने दो.
हाँ.
You would
अगर
like
50 years के बाद
हाँ.
अगर मैं नहीं रहूँगा तो मेरा ड्राइंग भी नहीं रहेगा. ब्लैंक हो
साथ
जाएगा.
साथ ठीक है. So he's okay with letting his things fade away, and as an artist he doesn't have a problem with that.
In the meantime, the collector's called up the gallery. I'm scrambling for an answer.
और इसके पीछे ये क्या है ये पीछे?
ये जनरली MDF है. Framers
That's
use
an
करते हैं.
MDF board. But just because we are talking about it, MDF board, don't ever put this in areas like Bombay or Kerala.
हाँ हाँ.
It'll destroy your work completely. Yeah, it'll just come apart. ख्याल करना. ठीक है?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tubbin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next awardee is Diptych Vernica from Goa. Diptych, hi. So, congratulations. Diptych works in a range of media. his work is there in the middle between the three works. I'm showing a little excerpt from a 2016 work, Swing of Landscape, which is a single-channel video piece. Just play maybe 30 seconds. And these are some video stills from the same work, as well as some more stills from other works, Neverland and Black Hole. Digital sketch here, and then moving on to charcoal and paper. For me, I think for the judges, we had enjoyed both the moving image work as well as the drawings and paintings. For me personally, I responded to these sort of almost twilight-like landscapes, which seem to talk of perhaps our understanding of the Goan landscapes of that region. I haven't talked to Diptych, so I don't know if I'm accurate, but that's how I at least. You can tell me that's rubbish.
Somewhat like.
Thank you.
Because it started basically after completing my master's, when I went back to Goa. So
your master's was in Hyderabad.
Yeah. So before that, I never thought in terms of using landscape as incorporating into my work. So somewhere I was losing that my own existence. So I thought that a mundane landscape can be a relation to it. So, and again going back to my own practice of charcoal, I was working as a portrait painter earlier in bachelor. So somewhat, yeah.
Just to finish off on your accomplishments, you've had residencies at HH Art Spaces in Goa, the Piramal Art Residency, and Koj in going back to 2014. And what I didn't include is also you have worked with performance-based, with live work, which I think at HH Spaces in Goa. So a full range of materials, but
who titled it Neverland?
So
किसने लिखा रखा है नाम?
It was like I was working and one of my friend was telling the story of this novel called Neverland. So then I got into this idea, and somewhat it was related, the idea of...
you didn't read the book?
Not as such, but I was interested in that that idea of Neverland.
And Black Hole?
Black Hole was the idea where the space which is in flux.
Whose idea to
it
put
was
that name?
No, I while working on it, it was in process. So
you thought of Black Hole?
Black Hole.
So
the idea of infinite space.
Sorry to interrupt you. These are process images of the charcoal works.
What is this charcoal stick? It's interesting.
Yeah, this is not charcoal. It's dry pastel. So I basically scratch this dry pastel on paper and use the dust of that dry pastels.
So can I ask you to talk about now that work, which is the work we've displayed?
Yeah.
So what's the title of this work?
Memory That Was Violated.
Yeah.
Memory That Was... You na tere titles to hai nahi.
No.
Come. Just tell us. I mean, I'm not going to ask too much. Just I want to see how it's done. Just tell me. You landscape Goa. You felt about your ancestors.
Yeah.
Anupam.
Can you just describe the studio? That's good.
Yeah.
Can you describe your studio? कहते हो जो भी कहते हो जहाँ wherever you
So
work.
I basically work at my home itself. I don't have a special studio. So it's a small house near maybe water, like backwater. So in a small space of maybe around room. Yeah.
It's a room in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, ठीक है. वहाँ पर क्या है? When you work, how do you set up your workspace?
Basically, I work in my living space
Okay.
with basic materials, easel or table.
This was
So
made
this
on?
was made on table,
Okay.
pasting paper pasted on ready-made canvas.
Okay, so you bought a ready-made canvas from the market.
Yeah.
And there was ground on it, that titanium oxide.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
So a
Texture
prepared,
white,
prime
prepared.
canvas.
Yeah.
So you put it on the table.
Yeah.
And then what did you do?
Then first of all, I worked with watercolor. Then paper, wet paper, Nepali paper, which is pasted on it. So just
Which watercolor?
sorry, not watercolor.
Gouache.
Gauze. Yeah,
Which company?
I forgot the name of it.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay. Indian.
No, it's Japanese.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And where do you buy your materials from?
That gauze I bought it from Delhi. Bombay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you made that, and then
Yeah.
what did you do? Quickly.
Then yeah.
What did you do after that?
Then I pasted this Nepali
Paper on it.
Yeah.
Nepali. वो जो मैंने दिखाया ना,
Yeah.
that was all the way Nepalese
Yeah.
paper is made.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I put that in
Yeah.
the slides for you. Okay, so you pasted them with what did you paste it?
Fevicol.
With
Yeah.
Fevicol.
Yeah.
Okay, with Fevicol.
So then the charcoal application of charcoal with cotton, and then I basically wipe it. So to create.
So all these designs are created.
Yeah, wiping
How do you wipe it?
with eraser.
Achha, so you remove it.
Yeah. Then I fix it with fixative.
Fix it.
Yeah.
So that's how it's been
Yeah.
created. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diptych.
But it's very nice of them to share an art which is theirs with us.
Yeah.
I asked them earlier, would it be okay to? They said, yeah, of course, it's all cool, it's all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our fourth awardee is Sankey Jadia. Sankey, can I ask you to thank you? Congratulations. BFA in Surat and MVA from Ambedkar University in Delhi, and you're currently working as in the visiting faculty at the Surat School of Arts. So I've got you showing work in 2016 in Vancouver.
No, not this one. There was another game. These are my drawings. Sorry.
But you have exhibited in Vancouver your work.
Yeah,
Don't
that was a
deny it.
gaming project.
Don't deny it. I see. And you've been part of the Coach residency,
Yeah,
Coach Delhi, Coach Peers, and Coach Workshop on gaming.
of gaming.
Yeah. So I think the judges were impressed by, again, the wide variety of materials that you use. These, I think, are 2000. What
It's
year are
recent
these?
work, 2015, 16.
15, 16. There's also performance-based work, which was presented where, Sankey?
So this was part of my bachelor's final year display.
And where was... So this is in Surat?
Yeah. So the space is in Surat, so the renovation works that keeps on happening, I look for those spaces and sort of intervene with them to, the immediate, images that starts on appearing in my mind, I intervene using performances. So I gather a few of my friends and give them a brief as to how to, react to the space, and then it's up to them. So I'm just a mere document, I merely document that. So.
And I think the body of work that we responded to most strongly was this, your Coagulated Anomalies series,
Right.
2016, of which also there are examples with us here tonight. Happy for you to speak about them as we're...
Yeah, so the cast of the bottle are, I've used white cement to, initially it began from there, I started collecting objects, and it was done during Pier's residency. So collecting objects and sort of, creating a different sort of a dialogue with them, trying to find new ways of intervening those very mundane visuals. And if you actually hold the objects, they are very subtle, and it's a very thin cast of white cement. So if you press it, the previous ones, the white ones.
Okay, now maybe
Yeah.
if you could just
Sort of, it's an evolution of the process. You know, so while making those actual objects, I started to think that what if I make them myself, like starting from scratch.
and I have some
what,
process images here.
Yeah, what would be those visuals and, you know, forms that I could use or sort of create, and taking reference of existing forms, I started sketching them out. And, you know, sketchbook had lots of drawings of various random shapes and like something that might resemble to obvious ones like bottles. And it's a process basically. I'm not sure what those images mean, but then to bring them to a three-dimensional form was a different challenge for me. So I started imagining modular structures like the ones that I have there, and how to, again, like what materials to use and how to get it cut and what forms they would eventually, you know, give me, was an entire process that sort of ended up.
This is the work that we have.
So
This is the work.
there's no specific reference for this structures, but I sort of used to draw, and I like those mechanical drawings a lot. So that's how, you know, this way of fixing them and not using any adhesives and stuff. So
So this work which is there, so it looks like terracotta, but is it terracotta? No, it's not.
Yeah.
No?
Wait,
it is terracotta clay. Yeah.
So it's not terracotta. It's
No,
clay.
not exact. It's
So
a
it's
clay, the
clay.
red clay that
It's clay.
usually it's used for making sculptures.
So that means it is
Not
unbaked.
been fired.
It's
So
unbaked.
it's not been
Yeah,
fired.
Yeah, yeah.
That means it can, if it's wet, it'll get destroyed.
Yeah,
It'll crack up.
it would.
But it hasn't cracked up.
Not yet. I
How
mean, it's
come?
not So I've preserved it well. I've not been. I mean,
Maybe
it's
he used
very-
very little water.
no.
And that's
Well, I have images,
in
so
how?
we can
No,
see
I
whether.
while making, I used lots of water. I mean, I had to keep on, you know, making the shape perfect, because if it's dry, then the form, you wouldn't get the perfect form. So it has to
but it
be.
didn't shrink after it was made.
Did. I mean, you can say it there, because the
Okay.
actual form and the stencil, it has shrinked a bit, like centimeter or two. So it
Okay,
does.
so you've taken clay
Yeah.
and then you made it into this. And where's this clay from? Where do you get this red clay in India?
I think usually visual art colleges has this. It's stored like it's in
Yeah.
bulk. It's there because you make sculptures through using this clay.
And this is in
It's-
which part of India? Gujarat? Or
Yeah, it's in Surat. So
Surat,
yeah.
okay. So this is where you made it. And what about that acrylic, itna sara jo plus, that
Huh.
acrylic? How did you make all that?
It's laser cut. So I mean, just
So you make a
it's
design.
Yeah.
Can you just
Technically,
tell
I
them? It is
just-
interesting.
I mean, I don't have those sketches, but again, I just visualize it in my mind and sort of, you know, so I know the thickness, ke kitna mota hoga wo acrylic, and you know, how much cut I need to sort of fix them perfectly, and it's trial and error. I keep on making different structures and
So then you take the design to a
laser cutting shop. I
Laser
sit
cutting
there
shop.
and I keep on sort of making
and they
this.
cut the acrylic into
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So the
So you just
moment
have
you
to
walk
feed
out of this
the-
space, you're going to get hired by a design company. So you actually made all that and you got it laser cut.
Yeah.
And how is it stuck to each other, or is it not stuck at all?
It's not stuck. It's just fixed.
It's
like,
all fixed. So there is no adhesive, anything used
Yeah.
in this.
Not really. Yeah.
So you got basically just two materials.
Yeah,
Acrylic
and terracotta, and
and
there is a
terracotta.
rod.
That's a rod of metal
Yeah.
or something. Pretty interesting, huh? But very. I thought you were a physics student or something, engineering, drawing or something. But you
I
seem
mean, I
to be
used
interested
to
in it.
yeah do those architectural drawings.
Excellent.
I mean,
That's pretty interesting as well.
Thank you, Sankey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
a lot. And last but not least, we have our youngest awardee, Tulika Suresh, who's, can I ask Tulika if you can join us? Congratulations. You're actually still undergoing your MVA at Ambedkar, having graduated from Baroda for your BFA.
Yes, that's right.
And so, yeah. So, oh, that's quite dark. So this is a better. So this is from your undergraduate, from your BFA
Yeah.
graduation
Mm-hmm.
show. maybe just tell us what medium.
So I think this was in my final year in bachelor's. So I was kind of restless. Just wanted to try anything that I could grab hold of. So these are kind of explorations with trying to like put different materials, objects, some constructed, some found, and photographic references, and sort of they were more like sort of bringing them together in as tableaus. I was very interested in the material and how they could sort of work together as a composition.
I'm now moving a little bit forward in time.
Yeah, these are
Sorry.
one of my most recent works.
Yeah. And I'm just going to. This is called Studies for a Condolence Meeting. So actually, we've got some sound going at the same time, and you can see some speakers on the table. So the speakers were playing the audio that we're listening to, along with these. I guess it's a bit soft, but you might.
Yeah, there's a speech. Basically, there were 2 files that played from each of the speakers. One.
Yeah, we can hear that. And this was on a loop.
Yeah, this was on a loop. So this was a speech from that I had recorded from a condolence meeting I had attended, and there's the other sound is like there's a cacophony of like these sounds which are basically like as if rummaging through a garbage bin, and I wanted to try and see. I mean, this again an experiment, and I would see this work as well as in process. It's something that I want to work on. I wanted to see how sound and visuals, like as particularly as a physical, like as painting, say, not just video, how they could sort of work together, what output could come from those explorations.
And then the work becomes quite performative at this point, where you're actually, your body is the site of also a part of the practice, and it's called whitewashing. There's a projection onto a wall showing streaming video, and you are
painting
the wall from white, as you can see here, to saffron here. Is this something you want to quickly?
So I kind of was looking at this whole process of graffiti, and it's something that happens like a lot of students even in our college, like a lot of people paint walls or like as graffiti, and it's always been like a sticky issue because there's one element of it being very ephemeral. It's something that comes and goes. There's no permanency to graphic, unlike say a mural or a fresco. Like so, and at the other extreme, there's this whole thing about censorship of like of a lot of like administrations, like the admin people would come and they would wipe off something that they didn't like to censor it. So I was looking at these like the dialectics of whitewashing, and demonetization had happened around the same time, and I was having problem, and some of my other peers who were also part of this exercise, we were having problems with our own, like funding our own execution. So somewhere that played along this idea of censorship, and I kind of brought the two ideas together there.
And moving on to your process, here is some documentation images of the whitewashing work. A work called Hamlet Machine, which I think also included performance, video,
performance and sound and video,
Yeah. And then the work that I'm going to ask Anupam and you to have a little chat about. This is called Window 1. And here's some documentation of the piece. Maybe while it's playing, you'd just like to tell Anupam what...
Sure. So this was displayed inside a room. There's a video that's being projected. These are stills from the video. The video is a 3 minutes odd long video that I created on a video editing software. And there is so there's a mic. There's a window in the room, and there's a mic that has been wired to the outside of the room, and there's a speaker which plays the sound is basically the sounds that are from the outside. And at a certain decibel level that I set, at a certain threshold, every time there's a loud sound, and another image gets triggered. And the image is of a library that exists in our campus. I was kind of, again, trying to see how visuals, how sound operate, and particularly in this, in like live as generative. So this is a software that I used to sort of bring the two, try and experiment with video and sound together. It's called Max MSP. It's a visual programming software. So I don't know anything about computer language. I don't know anything about C++, but I think that's the nice thing about the software, that you can dive into it and sort of, it allows you to explore interactive media. It has a very wide scope in digital technology to incorporate.
So who's this friend of yours who helps you with all this?
So this I did on my own. I mean, I kind of made this on my own. These are called patches. It has a lot of sort of online support. There's a very strong community. So I learn off the internet most of the time, looking at tutorials.
So what you are saying is that there is one room, and you have your projection here, and on that wall you have a window.
Yeah.
And outside the window you've hung a microphone, and the wires from that come into this room.
Yeah.
And you plugged it into a software.
Yeah.
So the sounds that are outside on the road
Yeah.
are the ones that you hear on the speakers in this room.
Yeah.
And whenever the sounds go higher than a certain amount, you have these images that are here.
Yeah. This is the image of the library. So there are these two channels that sort of streamline into the projector, and every time there's a sound, like there's a high volume, that image on the right.
So what is the kick that you get out of that?
Oh dear.
So I think somewhere I have right now, like it's a curiosity, and I'm trying to see what I can do with that as a technique of something that like of live generation, like generative sound or video, how that can sort of tweak or disorient, or trying to see how I can disorient through images and sound our experience of the space that we are in.
Your parents have seen your work.
Not the installation, no.
We'll
not
do it
on
later.
site.
Anupam, can I ask you a question? Where are we with archiving digital media? And in the Indian context, do we have institutions that are looking at this area? Is there institutional support for?
At the moment, there is no institutional support for conservation of digital media. The people who are supporting the conservation of digital media are the companies and the institutions that themselves create these products and archive them for their records. So if you ask them for help, they'll sell you the software and the storage space, and that is what the vendors do. They sell you the storage space, and that is how it is retained.
Right. Thank
In
you.
terms of CDs and other materials, and if you want to record this in something, it's always best to keep these in cold environments like photographs and other things.
Thank you. Thank you, Tulika.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's our awardees. I just asked the tech team, can you freeze this image? Thank you. We are running a little short on time. If there are any questions for Anupam, now is your chance before he goes back into the audience. Are there any questions, any thoughts? No reflections. Then I think then I think we owe you a big thank you. This was really fantastic. We'll hope to see more exhibitions of yours at the Prince of Wales. And in the meantime, I'd like to hand over to Amita, please. Thank you. And I just ask the tech team just to hold with me. Sure.
Hello? Ooh, yeah, okay. Thank you, Anupam, and thank you, all 5 awardees, for being part of this evening. And we'd like to give the awardees their little token appreciation now. I'll call out your names, and if you're Mrs. Shivdasani will hand you your award. So if you all can just come forward when I call your name, yeah? Can you just hand these to Auntie one by one? Yeah. So could we have Diptych here first, yeah? Yeah, same order. Diptych Vernikar. Lovely. Mamita Das. Sankey Jadia. Tapan Moharana. And Tulika. Thank you. Can I just ask Professor Chauhan to make the closing remarks, please? Yeah. Or wherever I can give you this or there or wherever.
When I walked in this evening here, Amita said if the whole thing finishes before 8 o'clock, you have 5 minutes. If it is beyond 8 o'clock, then 3 minutes. It's almost 8:30, so it'll be 2 minutes. So thank you very much. Amita has already done the job. I thank the jury. I think making an application is far more easier. The jury job is very, very difficult. I do some scholarship interviews, and I'm sure you agree with me, being jury is tougher than being an applicant. And applicants, please agree with me on this. Very, very difficult to judge. Thank you very much. And Amita, but thanks really goes to you. I'm sitting next to Lakshmi. Lots of thoughts. This is the 40 years association with the foundation. I just couldn't help think what Indu must have thought when he decided that he should set up a foundation to help young individuals. And he was very clear that not the institution, but they should be funding individuals. And Lakshmi is witness to all this, but together what they thought of, we see the results of it now. Very early time of the foundation, the seeds were sown at that time, and results are that some of the inlay scholars are, very famous academic. They are vice chancellor. They are Supreme Court judges. They are famous artists, and so on. And I'm sure Lakshmi is very pleased to see all this the way it has gone. The Arts Award, as you said, Rekha was the first recipient. That happened in your building where your office is right now. That's where we interviewed her first. I couldn't think of, I just cannot not tell you this, that when the artists were included in our scholarship schemes, the number grew. We had about 10 the first year, then 15, 20. And came a time when we had very large number of awards, of artists applying. And this was a meeting in Mr. Jetha Daryani's house, where Lakshmi was there, and Beena Shivdasani was there. And the idea came that since there's such large number of people, and some of them are in the really formative stages, they may not be as mature as to send them to Royal College or wherever the foreign institutions were. And this idea grew in a scientific institution, actually. From Jetha Daryani, it moved to my lab. And in my lab, this is Manisha Parekh, who I'm so pleased is here, and Manisha's father. These were the people who really set the stage for this. This has moved on to very high sophistication. what Manisha, Vibha, and everybody else who was involved initially were getting slides, and our slide projectors never worked in my lab. So they had to bring their own projectors and looking at things. But anyway, I'm so pleased to see what this has turned into. Very impressive work of young people. Congratulations to all of you. Mamita, I don't know how each year you do better than the previous year. So this is amazing. And Anupam, your lecture was very absolutely marvelous, but very threatening. And I must admit. But I was just thinking while you were talking, if things change with time as they do, I guess the owner also is aging. And he also doesn't see as well as he saw when he or she acquired the. And if you inherited it from your parents, then you did not know what your parents saw when they bought it. So it doesn't really matter. Yet it's very threatening, I think, to see that it'll all decompose into maybe nothingness sometime. I hope not. But anyway, I really enjoyed your talk. And Amita, I don't know what you'll do next year, but this was fantastic this year. And thank you all of you to be here. I'm very pleased to be here, although I'm freezing, so we'll get out from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, once again. Anupam, Mortimer, for putting together the wonderful presentation this evening. Anuradha for making this wonderful space available for us. And now please join us for some wine and dinner on the terrace. Thank you.